Today I'm bringing you the most definitive tier list in My Hero Ultra Rumble. And if you didn't know, I held rank 1 for over a week. I do think someone just passed me yesterday as I haven't been able to play much these past 3 days. I've spent over 40 hours making this tier list and I've adjusted it over 30 times. And I played every character within ranked to test them against the highest skill possible. So I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on the characters and where they rank in accordance to each other. Now enough of this intro, let's get into it. Alright, so first up on the list is Todoroki. Todoroki easily makes S tier as he might be the best character in the game. His A ability shoots incredibly fast, dishes out a good amount of damage, and has the most range out of any shooting character in the game. His movement ability, his ice, doubles as a stun and might be the best stun in the game as well, as it's very easy to hit. And then of course his ice wall that dishes out a ton of damage and also provides him some protection. Now the one thing that Todoroki doesn't have is vertical movement, but his kit is still so good and he definitely deserves S tier. Alright, next up we have Shigaraki. This character can dish out a ton of damage, especially when there's a lot of chaos going on and multiple teams are fighting, as he's able to contact multiple targets at once. He also has a very nice stun ability, his grab, that also doubles as movement. And if you do land this, then your team can easily one-shot a character. Now his early game is not the greatest and he's not able to fight anyone that's flying around in the sky. So for those two reasons, he makes A tier. Our next character belonging to the A tier is Red Riot. Now Red Riot hits like a truck and he still manages to have quite a bit of mobility. He has more mobility than I realized at first. And on top of that, he has great survivability with his special action. Now Red Riot is by far the best melee character in the game, and honestly I think he's the most fun character to play as well. He's an easy no-brainer to go into the A tier, and he doesn't quite make S tier just because I believe at the highest tier level of play, certain ranged characters will outperform him. Our first B tier character is Momo, and she has a decent bit of survivability with her Riot Shield as she becomes immune to almost every ability in the game. It does dish out a little bit of damage, but it's also very easy to dodge, so I think this ability is more useful to stall for your team if you do get caught off guard. And of course her A ability, it has a decent radius to it, and it's very easy to hit as you don't have to be 100% accurate. Now I think Momo is just more annoying than anything. I don't think she excels too heavily on her own, and I believe it's very easy to outplay her. Now she is extremely easy to play, but there's overall better picks out there, so that's why she belongs in B tier. Now next up we have Froppy in S tier, and the reason she's S tier is 1, she's fairly easy to play while still managing to dish out a decent amount of damage. 2, she has the best revive in the game as it's almost instant and you can do it from afar. 3, the amount of movement that she has is insane, and the ability to go invisible just becomes increasingly annoying for teams as she can disengage and re-engage pretty easily. So unless someone's really good at tracking her, this character is extremely annoying. Our next B tier character is All Might, and I really don't think this guy is too great. He's not bad close range, but the issue with his kit is honestly a lot of his abilities just take too long to charge up. His A ability or his shot doesn't move too fast. He's also just a large target. Now his Cyclone ability is pretty good, but other than that his kit overall just isn't too great, and that's why I think he belongs in B tier. Next up we have Kaminari, and he belongs to the C tier. Now his alpha ability does do a decent amount of damage on contact, however he does get outranged by other characters. Now you can use this ability kind of like a trap, but if you do it that way, that's just time where other characters can DPS you, and it just doesn't end up being that good. His electrical field ability can dish out a lot of damage, but it is also something that's fairly easy to dodge in my opinion, and it leaves you in a vulnerable state. His best ability is probably his dash, as it does stun someone on contact and it doubles as movement. Now Kaminari can be nice with a team as he does possess the ability to paralyze people, however he gets outclassed way too often. Next we have Ebar, and she's the second character we have in the C tier. And the main reason for this is simply because she is very stationary. She doesn't have any mobility in her kit, and every time she does an attack, she stays still. Now her attacks honestly aren't that bad, they're pretty good. They dish out a decent amount of damage and provide knockback or some sort of stun. And because of this, she's one of the only characters that can knock Momo out of her shield and All Might out of his Cyclone, as well as knocking down Oako out of her spin. I also believe she has the second best res in the game next to Froppy. Now since she really has no mobility, if she does get caught off guard or away from her team, she does get punished pretty hard. Also, this sounds really stupid to say, but her ability to finish a knock is extremely low compared to other characters, so if you have a thirsty team, you might not get your kill. Next we have D for Dobby, and Dobby is the only character we have in the D tier. His alpha ability is straight up just terrible. You can easily sidestep this and never get hit. Although his ring of fire is kind of cool as it stops projectiles from coming through it. Plenty of characters have counters to this by either going up into the air and dealing damage to him, or by simply going through it as it doesn't do that much damage. Now his traps aren't that bad and can catch you off guard, but his kit overall just creates for a very strange playstyle within this game. And honestly, his biggest strength is viewing him as a non-threat. I've seen plenty of players, including myself, ignore Dobby during fights, and that is usually when he does manage to dish out some sort of damage, but overall this character is just not that good. Going back to the A tier, we have Oako. Now with her grapple and float ability, she has some of the best mobility in the game, and she's actually capable of traveling across half of the map without ever touching the ground. Now on top of that, her damage is actually quite good, especially with her spin attack that scales hard late game. You can easily combo people out with this, especially within tight spaces. Also, her gravity field is incredibly good, as you can catch any character in the game, cancelling any of their abilities and dealing more damage to them. Next we have Mountain Lady joining Momo and All Might in the B tier. Honestly, she feels pretty smooth to play. She gets 2 kicks at level 1, and she also has a ground pound ability, which pulls her out of the sky faster. And of course, her alpha, her 2 shockwaves she shoots out. Now unfortunately, Mountain Lady feels pretty weak unless you transform, and this just kinda sucks because when you do transform, you just become a big target and tend to get focused, resulting in her dying more often. It's definitely something you pop depending on the situation, and popping it too early can get you killed. Also, she just gets outranged by the characters above her in A and S tier, and these are all reasons why I believe she belongs in B tier. Next we have Bakugo in the S tier. Now Bakugo probably has the best solo kit in the game, as he can shoot from range with his AP shot, has grenades to dish out more damage, and his 2 dashes he gets with his special action that allow him to reposition in fights. And of course his Y attack, but I do find this to be a little awkward, and I honestly don't find myself using it that often except to finish a knocked player. Now he does have less shots than Deku and Todoroki, and I do think this hurts his early game just slightly. However, if the player has good aim, those few shots don't matter. Next we have Mr. Compress, and this is our first F tier character. You can spam his alpha ability quite a bit, however it provides more visual clutter than anything, and it's pretty easy to dodge. His reflective shield is kinda cool, but it requires an enemy projectile to be worth anything, and any good player knows not to shoot Mr. Compress, or to be careful about it. And on top of that, his teleport is just not good as it requires a charge up time, and he can take damage during this. Unfortunately for Mr. Compress, his kit just sucks and he's too easy to counter, and that's why he's F tier. Next we have Kendo, and she belongs in the B tier. She's honestly quite an interesting character, and I think majority of the player base is playing her wrong. I believe her shield ability should be something that's tapped and not held. I see a lot of Kendo players make this mistake as they hold it up for way too long, and they end up just stalling or not dealing any damage until they die. Her alpha ability, or rock throw, doesn't have the most range or the most damage, but the reload speed on it is pretty quick. Also, her clap ability does a good chunk of damage as well. Now honestly, there's nothing in her kit that's too crazy, she's just an average character, and that's why she's B tier. Next on the list is Deku, and he belongs in S tier. Now Deku, I believe, has one of the best kits in the game. His alpha, starting with 8 shots and maxing at 10, allows for consistent damage. His beta or kick ability can be used for damage or movement, and his Y ability, or whip, doubles as movement and a stun. And if you do manage to stun someone, your team can easily one-shot them as well. And not only that, maxed out he gets 2 of them, so technically he can have a total of 3 movement abilities. With a kit like this, he is more than deserving of S tier. Alright, coming up next is Cementos, and Cementos belongs to F. This character is so bad only because he's a grief. The amount of visual clutter this guy creates during fights is ridiculous, and because this guy spawns pillars and walls around the map while also knocking back opponents, leads to very prolonged fights, and oftentimes knocked opponents end up getting rezzed because no one can find where the kill is. Now he does deal a hefty amount of damage, and he has an instant res, however there are just better picks out there that won't make your fights messy. Next up is the most interesting and unique character in the game, Toga. Her ability to take someone's blood and turn into them and take their levels is actually crazy. The fact that she can get rezzed late game, take the blood of someone who's level 9 on every skill, and instantly turn into them with level 9 skills is absurd. Not only that, but every time she transforms to another character or back to herself, all of her cooldowns get reset. This means you can spam her abilities, instantly swap to someone else, and spam their abilities, swap back, and instantly spam again. She has the craziest uptime in the game. Now the only reason she doesn't quite make S tier is because her whole idea is turning into someone else, and sometimes it may backfire as someone might have lower levels than you currently do. Not only that, she also depends on how efficient you are with every character in the game. And that's why she belongs in A tier. Now last on our list is Ida, and I put him at B tier. Now Ida excels at picking one person off and keeping them out of the fight, or eliminating them himself. However, his ability to fight multiple people at once is not very high, thus he doesn't quite make A or S tier. He can definitely pose a threat, and he's honestly one of the most annoying characters in the game, as he has the ability to get in and get out, and I think that's very belonging of B tier. And that's my tier list. I do think it's very possible to do well on any of these characters. However, at the highest level of play, I think this is 100% accurate. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and hit those alerts. More videos coming soon.